Welcome to Music Student 101. Behind every good melody, there may not be a harmony. But there is certainly a potential for one. In Episode 2, we gave you the bare bones explanation of both of these elements of music. Now it's time to stick them together. Let's figure out how to harmonize a melody and determine which chords to use for accompaniment. And let's all thank our Patreon patron, Anna Eastman, for suggesting this topic. Here are your hosts, Jeremy Burns and Matthew Scott Phillips.
Okay, we are back.
We are back.
I think we always say we're back. It's just kind of implied.
Obviously we're back.
We'll always be around. Matt, this is the time where I might normally say, hey, what did you think about that bumper music?
Yeah.
But you have no idea.
I have no idea what happened. No.
But it will be revealed later on within this episode.
Okay. All right.
So, today's episode will also be revealed within the listener mail, but I'll go ahead and spoil it.
Okay.
Today we're talking about harmonizing a melody.
Right.
Which is funny because I touched on that on the very first theory episode, episode 2, melody and harmony.
Wow, that was a long time ago.
But since then, we haven't really elaborated on that a whole lot. I mean, we've talked about harmony, we've talked a whole lot about counterpoint, and like I said, there's this melody thing I'm trying to get into more now, right?
Yeah.
And this is the last episode of the year.
Right.
So I want everyone to come into the new year, with the knowledge on how to harmonize.
And how to harmonize good melodies.
Yes, exactly. But before we get into all that, I want to talk about our Patreon patrons. We have no new review today. We have a couple, but they're not quite as backed up as our Patreon patrons.
So we should probably handle this then.
So we normally do a new review, then a Patreon patron, then a listener mail. But today we're going to do a Patreon patron, a Patreon patron,
and a Patreon patron.
And a Patreon patron. However, the final Patreon patron started as a listener mail, so I think that still counts for the listener mail crew.
Sure.
That happens from time to time, actually.
We are blessed with a lot of Patreon patrons that we are having to get to. Be patient.
Mm-hmm.
Be patient. We're getting to you. Don't worry.
Yes, we are. And the first of which we will speak of today is our friend Jamie Bagshaw.
Jamie.
What does Jamie have to say, Matt?
Jamie says, I'm 28 years old and I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. Just moved to the Germantown neighborhood, which is a really neat area with a cool culture. That sounds neat.
Mm-hmm.
I got my music degree from a small private college in Florida where I studied vocal performance. Hey, look at that.
Yeah.
I was a huge theory nerd in college, I understand, and having your podcast would have been so helpful. Unfortunately, I didn't pursue music as a career. I work as a fraud investigator and personal trainer.
Dun, dun, dun.
Probably makes more money.
Probably, yeah.
I still occasionally get the chance to perform at gigs and in shows. I'm hoping to eventually purchase a piano so I could give music lessons at home someday. It's awesome hearing you guys discuss music on a more theoretical level. Listening to you and the 8-Bit Theory YouTube channel has really helped keep my theory sharp. Well, that's great. It's always good that we're helpful, especially to people who already have music degrees. You know,
right. And Jamie's not the first person to mention 8-Bit music theory.
Yeah.
We'll have to check that out.
We need to check that out.
We have at some point. I've seen so many different YouTube theory videos.
I know, yeah. It's possible we've seen it at this point because, we do watch a ton of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but there's also a ton of them out there, so.
Yeah. But, well, cool, man. It's good to meet you, Jamie.
Indeed. Thank you so much.
And thanks again for your Patreon patronage.
Indeed.
Let us keep it moving with our new friend, Ben Yard-Buller.
Okay.
So Ben Yard-Buller is from Exeter, Devon, in England.
Oh, wow.
Regarding Ben's musical journey, he says, I'm 45, and until a couple of years ago, I had very little music in my life. I remember auditioning for the school choir when I was about 8. I got through about 3 notes of Lord of the Dance before my music teacher stopped me and advised me to stick to cricket. to stick to cricket. Horrible. Three notes into it. Lord of the Dance.
Oh, wow. I didn't get told to stick to cricket. Don't you just love helpful and inspiring music teachers like that? Oh, good grief.
I might should have stuck to soccer, but, here I am.
You mean football.
Football, right.
You mean football,
Exactly.
right? Right, Ben? He means football.
Yeah, I do mean football. So anyways, he continues, not that I experienced this as any kind of trauma, but it did mean I went through the next few decades thinking that music just wasn't for me, although I did a pretty good at cricket.
You did pretty good at cricket.
Anyhow, my wife and 2 kids are all musical, and I decided to give it a go. So I've been learning the piano and listening to a lot more music, and I guess more actively. Good on you. I've also got really into theory. I'm a Buffon at heart.
Oh.
What is that? Do you know, Matt?
No.
Shall
Somebody with some English?
Shall we Google?
Sure.
Stand by for Google. I assume it is something.
I'm assuming he's not meaning the Star Wars race that died bringing them the information on the Death Star.
Boffin. Sometimes I should have more preparation. Okay. A person engaged in scientific or technical research.
Ah, okay.
A person with knowledge or a skill considered to be complex, arcane, and difficult.
That's probably what he means.
Right on. Buffon at heart. Okay. Good to know, man. I guess we're all Buffons at heart here at Music Student 101.
I guess so.
Okay, so anyways, he says, I've got really into theory and find your blog both illuminating and entertaining, mostly on purpose.
Mostly on purpose.
Right. You've hit on a terrific formula. Rigorous but informal, unpretentious, practical, and a tad dorky. I love it.
Only a tad.
Just a tad. I thought we were a little more.
We're doing all right.
A little more than a tad.
Well, thank you so much, Ben. It's so good to hear from you, and thank you for your patronage as well. Yeah, a Buffon at heart.
Buffon at heart. And another thing about Ben is Ben is what we call our perfect fifth members, one of our perfect fifth members. And there you go, that's our perfect fifth. And part of that is you get a coffee mug.
Yes.
And then you get your own little episode that we will answer whatever question on Patreon site.
Indeed.
Although there are a few little concessions we might make, and we're going to talk about those in a second. Now, Ben says, I do not need a mug. I have plenty of mugs, and Ben's not the first person. And if you could see my cabinet, I have plenty of mugs. I don't need any mugs. But I think what we're going to do for Ben is send him this nice little music notation book with a Music 101 sticker on it.
Yes.
As this just suggested is our notebook.
And our signatures on the first page.
And a nice little note and our signatures on the first page. And he can use that to further his musical skills.
Wonderful.
Yeah. An option for those of you who, like Ben and I, don't need any more mugs. Now, here's another thing. We're going to move on to the next Patreon patron. Thanks again, Ben. Thanks again, bud.
Thank you, Ben.
So we're going to move on to Anna Eastman.
Anna.
Now, Anna, I was going to wait for the Women's Part 2 episode, Women in Music Part 2 episode, because Anna sent me an email that kind of inspired the Women in Music episode.
Right, yeah.
Now, however, she asked a question, and here's another little change up we're going to do with the Patreon vibe and groove. She's asked a question that I think is so important. We can't just restrict it to the Patreon page.
That it deserves to be a full
It needs to be
episode.
A full-on Music Student 101 episode that everyone can listen to and everyone can learn about. We cannot restrict this information to a selected few. No. And Anna has agreed to let us use this as her official Patreon episode.
Excellent.
So all of our listeners on the outside world can get a little glimpse into what it's like to hear a Patreon episode.
Yes, indeed. So shall we see what Anna has to say then?
Absolutely.
So Anna says, you do well to delve into mentally challenging theory without becoming dry, and I love the fact that you illustrate your points in real time on a keyboard or with excerpts of recorded music. You have no idea how terrifying it is for me to try to play the keyboard.
Anna likes it.
Well, I'm glad someone does. But anyway, she continues, I understand the challenges of copyright law, which make it difficult to use well-known songs, and I think you get around this well. Well, thanks. We do what we can.
Anna gets it.
Yeah. I particularly like your use of a different original composition for each opening credits instead of a theme tune. The first person to recognize, at least say so.
At least live, I think, yeah.
Yeah, so one of only a few people to directly express the acknowledgement of our theme music being different every time.
Yeah, huh?
Yeah. Great, you guys don't know, Jeremy composes these things and then records these things.
Often with my help from Brian Malloy and Jerry Chapman.
Right, yeah, every single time, once a week, he's doing these. He's like Bach writing the sacred music for the Lutheran Church or something. Yeah,
The Cliff Notes, the versions of whatever Bach might have done.
Yeah, I mean, occasionally he cheats and takes one of my compositions, but that's rare.
That is rare. That is rare.
So yeah, there you go.
I saved those for the special episode.
Yeah, I personally was kind of wondering if people would start saying, "Hey, you guys have a different theme music every time," you know. So
I think it's pretty cool.
I think it's pretty neat too. And as usual, I do nothing to help or contribute whatsoever. That is completely Jeremy's own stuff there.
And to that I say, it is your delicious brains again, Matt, that make this show what it is.
Go on.
Oh, and
no, seriously,
your handsome smile, and of course they don't see that, but you can hear a smile. You can hear a smile.
You can hear a smile. Mm-hmm. I think you can hear a person smile.
Absolutely.
Anyway, Anna continues. I live on the beautiful Isle of Skye, Scotland.
Sounds beautiful.
Does. I play the fiddle, and I have only been learning just less than 5 years. I moved to Skye 6 years ago and discovered this incredible traditional music scene. I was lucky to move, quite by chance, near one of the best session pubs in Scotland, which has 4 sessions a week and regular gigs with world-class musicians. Now, that's awesome.
4 sessions a week.
That's something.
To those who aren't familiar with what a traditional Celtic music session is, it's... they all just kind of show up at the pub and bring their instruments, and it's very informal.
Yeah.
But there's often 1 or 2 leaders who kind of know all the tunes, and they'll just start up. Yeah. Everyone will chime in.
And anyone who knows the tune and wants to generally can sit down and play along.
Or you could just watch in amazement.
Yeah, there's a group that does sessions like that here in Birmingham. I think they only do once a month, though.
Yep.
So 4 sessions a week, that's something else.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, where was I here? Not only is it incredible music, but a vibrant, close-knit social scene with a strong emphasis on supporting up-and-coming musicians and a hardcore party attitude. Well, that's what you need.
Guinness and whiskey and Jameson.
I'm 41 years old and have developed a passion for music and music theory that I never knew existed. I honestly thought I had no musical aptitude whatsoever. I am now setting out to prove on myself that an adult learner can become a competent musician. And yes, they can, Anna. Hey. I am here to agree with you 100%. It does not matter what age you start.
And a majority of our listeners, too, really.
Really, yeah. And it is not a question of when you start, and it's not really a question of aptitude either, I dare say. That's a little bit more of a controversial opinion, I suppose, but I don't put a whole lot of stock in musical talent. Mm-hmm. I put a lot of stock in how much energy and time and passion you've devoted to getting better.
Right.
You know.
And the way you do it, too.
Right.
Because we talked about the 10,000 hours rule.
Right, yeah, we talked about that last time. Yeah. So, but that, to me, means more than, what people generally refer to as talent.
Right.
I'm not a big proponent of talent.
I hope not, because I had to work pretty hard to get where I'm at.
I didn't know,
just start walking and start playing bass.
And Anna says, I still have a long way to go. Fiddle is hard.
Yeah, right? You think?
Right. But Anna has a question that actually, as you were saying, inspired this episode.
Yeah.
And so that question is this. My question is, how do you know what chords to play to accompany a melody? Mm-hmm. So let's say the tune is a simple 4/4 in D major and starts on the tonic. Yeah, there you go. Mm-hmm. Easy enough to play a 1-chord D major on the first note. But then what? Do you just play diatonic chords with the melody note at the root on every one? So
I'm assuming that means the beat 1.
Right, yeah. You could do that.
You could do that.
So if bar 2 starts on B, for example, should you play the diatonic B chord that naturally occurs in the scale of D, which is a B minor, I think? Yes, that would be correct. A B minor. There's obviously more to it than that because those chords often don't sound right. I imagine they don't. I just don't understand how to integrate chord function. This chord wants to resolve to that chord with the notes that actually occur in the melody. And yes, and this is the question that actually inspired us to think maybe we should just talk about this.
Right.
In a sense, we have always talked about this.
In a sense, yes, we have.
But then in another real sense, we've never talked about this. We've never explicitly sat down and said, okay, if I have a melody and I want to add chords to it, here's how I would go about it. And this is off into that mystical, magical realm that is songwriting or composition, really, or maybe arranging. You can think of it that way, but. It suffice to say that this is a creative process. And like any creative process, everybody's going to approach it differently. Mm-hmm. Everybody, you put the same melody in front of 10 different musicians and you're going to have 10 different chords, if they all decide to harmonize it. So there's not a right way or a wrong way. It's not a good or a bad harmonization per se. This is a creative process that you're going through. And so it's going to be highly individualistic, and we're not saying do it this way or you're doing it wrong. That's not the way this works.
Right.
But I think it would be helpful to sort of go through a couple of approaches and sort of work our way through a melody, for Anna and for everyone else, so that they can at least see what's going on in our heads when we try to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we get into it, I just want to show a couple of quick examples. I think now's probably a good time to do this.
Okay.
I have here my bouzouki, which I guess is really technically an octave mandolin.
Mostly in tune.
Mostly in tune. Actually, bouzouki is Greek for out of tune. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
No, it's not. It's not. Oh, let me just double check this real quick. Now you got me paranoid.
Sorry.
Okay, so for an example, we're going to start using the C major scale. If you want to just show me as a basic example of a melody like we did on that second episode.
Yes.
Just play that C major scale all the way up. Simple. Mm-hmm. But now this time, maybe a little slower for me. Okay. We're going to play up the C major scale, only I will be playing a harmony. And I will follow in parallel motion. That means as you go up, I go up, step by step.
Right.
Up the major scale.
Okay.
So you ready?
Ready.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And that melody was in thirds.
That was a thirds based on a major third above your starting note.
Yes.
C.
Yes.
And my note was a major third above that, E.
Ah.
Yeah. Now, that's just a very base example of that being a melody, right?
Right,
now,
yeah.
We, Matt, you want to sing something for the people?
I've got this perfectly in tune digital keyboard sitting right in front of me. What am I singing?
The Itsy Bitsy Spider.
Okay. Itsy Bitsy Spider went up the water spout.
That's the one. So you sing the melody. Now try and harmonize.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes.
So your starting note is D.
Yeah, sol.
So mine's going to be 1.
Yep. All right.
Which is, give me that 1.
Which is do.
Okay.
All right, ready?
2, 3, 4.
The itsy bitsy spider climbing up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out.
Lovely. Out came the sun and dried up all the rain, and the itsy bitsy spider climbed up the spout again. I think I learned climbed and you learned went.
I learned went up. Yeah, my southern roots are showing.
Mm-hmm. But I think that was good enough for an example, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Of a major melody.
Right, yeah. So everybody knows this.
Yes, hopefully.
Yeah. Hopefully.
And if you don't, you do now.
And if you don't, you do now. So, do, 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 re, mi, re, mi, re, do, re, mi, do. Yeah, yeah.
But anyways,
Pretty classic.
so that is an example of what it would sound like if you were to harmonize a melody. Now, we're going to do a little bit of that. Ultimately, Anna is asking what kind of chords to put to these kind of things. So we're going to take you through a quick process on this melody that I have here.
Okay.
We're going to learn the melody. Then we're going to harmonize a third above it, all diatonic. This melody actually starts on the third of the chord. So we can harmonize a third below on the root and still move in parallel motion.
Okay.
We will run into a parallel motion situation
here.
But ultimately, once we get those three, the melody plus its two harmonies, we'll be able to tell pretty well what some of these chords should be.
Okay.
Okay? So are you ready for me to unveil this melody?
Yes. Let's hear it.
I'm going to walk it over to you, Matt.
I have not seen this or heard this. I do not know what I am being presented with here.
It's the top one right there.
Oh, okay.
And bearing in mind, when I heard this, the meter was a little, there was not a beat to it.
So this looks like C minor.
C minor, 3 flats.
So
2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3.
I have heard that. Where have I heard that? I have heard that.
This is kind of hoping what your response would be.
Oh, shoot. All right.
Because that makes it extra great.
Don't tell me. That's one of mine. You sneaky little
little dog that I am. A rat, a weasel. All those good things, man. Isn't that funny?
What's hilarious is it took me 5 minutes to go, I've heard that. Where have I heard that? But yeah, that is actually one of my...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't even remember my own chord progression anymore. Something like that.
I guarantee it'll be nothing like what I came up with this process, because I bet anything you had a little more chromaticism in it.
Yeah. Oh, hold on. I'm starting to remember now. Something like that, yeah.
That's way cooler than what I came up with. So we'll talk about the differences afterwards.
Okay.
All right. So anyways.
That was funny.
That was great. And just so you know, obviously that is what the opening and closing music is going to be for this episode.
Oh, okay.
So
all right.
To answer the question, did you like that opening?
I guess I have to.
I guess you do. And if I didn't mention it, that is Cecilia by Matthew Scott Phillips. All right, so again, we have established this melody in the key of C minor. Let's see here. And we start off on the third, like I say.
Yeah, so
if you are reading along on the website, you will see this. You will see our piece here in the key of C minor. That's 3 flats. This is in what I'm calling 4/4 time. You might have had some other different things going on.
I think it was 4/4.
It's pretty close.
Yeah.
You couldn't see the conductor conducting in this. I got this off the your SoundCloud page.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
SoundCloud.com.
Right.
So, anyways, the feel is like this. Actually, why don't you play it on the piano?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll play this on the piano.
Just the melody by itself.
Just the melody by itself in C minor. So here we go. Do you want me to count through the whole thing, or should I just count off?
It might be helpful for the listeners if we can do the whole thing.
All right. Well, why don't you count then? I'll play.
And 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Is that a pickety third?
It was. Well, we're going to talk about this in the course of this episode, so
Fun.
I won't give anything away.
Okay. So now what we're going to do is you're going to play that melody again, but on top of it with this bouzouki, with this octave mandolin, I'm going to throw a harmony a third above it.
Okay.
In the same key.
Okay.
So there's no chromaticism. These are all just notes following. As he goes down, I go down. As he goes up, I go up, and so forth.
Right. Okay.
So you start off on the E flat. So the third above that, this G note is actually a third above an E flat in the key of C minor, but you're hearing it an octave lower than what you're going to see on the paper, just so you know. It sounds better and resonates better in this register on my octave mandolin. So, is that cool?
Okay.
Ready when you are, sir?
All right.
1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 2, 3. So that was the melody plus a harmony. Now, as we play this, we're kind of getting a better idea of harmony. What chords might
harmony.
actually...
Well, yeah, when we're playing the thirds on top of it like that, what we're doing is sort of... With a third, we're sort of starting to imply some chords, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. You know, which is an interesting approach.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, this is the approach I use if I'm playing in a band and we're singing a song and I want to come up with a good harmony.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So usually there'll be a singer singing the melody, and then maybe someone will harmonize the third above.
Yeah.
And then another good place to go in, because often a fifth above is getting up there.
Yeah.
A third below.
Right.
Which now, if you want to, we'll try that as well.
Okay.
So this time, omitting the harmony of a third above, we're just going to do the same thing. You're playing the same thing.
Okay.
But I will start with a harmony a third below. And we'll see how that feels. I can pull that off.
Okay.
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
So on.
Yeah.
So I could hear that.
Yeah.
Now,
Now.
for me comes a bit more of a challenge because this time we are going to actually try this thing where I am playing the harmonies myself. You just play the same thing you did.
Okay.
But because I'm moving in parallel fifths and the mandolin is tuned in fifths, this should not be too difficult, right?
Let's hope not.
In theory.
In theory.
Real quick. That kind of thing, right? Okay. So this time, with the melody and with a third below, a harmony a third below, and a harmony a third above.
Okay.
See how many takes this takes. You ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
So, when you look at the paper we have here, I have like a whole succession of chords, right?
Right.
So let's go through these now. These are all based off the diatonic chords.
Yes.
And we'll talk about what I came up with just based on following in parallel motion versus...
So basically what's going on here is that we had a third above the melody and then a third below the melody, and the chords that those three notes together suggested was the chords that we now have.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Thanks for putting that in a sensible way. All right, so if I was to play along with this, I mean, you want to try and play chords while you do the melody?
Sure.
Let me see if I can figure out this D diminished chord real quick. D diminished. Yeah, right. Oh my gosh. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see here. You ready? Mm-hmm. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, before we get into this, actually, you will have noticed what we were talking about as far as the parallel fifths are concerned. Mm-hmm. Because as I'm following above and below your third melody, I have...
You're creating fifths. C to G, B flat to F.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, again, once we start playing chords in a more proper fashion, that might get rid of some of the parallelism problems, maybe.
Possibly.
For example, so if I'm playing like...
What we're going to have to do is substitute, ironically.
Substitution. Let me just play these chords right quick as is, so you can hear what you see before you. Mm-hmm. And you want to play the melody?
Sure.
And 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Nicely done. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you see before you the chords, you heard how it sounds with the melody.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that?
What are my thoughts? Well, these are diatonic chords.
Yeah.
Obviously. One of the things Anna asks was, well, do you just use diatonic chords?
Yeah.
And you can.
Yeah.
You can start with diatonic chords at least. And in a lot of Scottish and Irish music, you're going to be dealing a lot with diatonic chords. Mm-hmm. It's kind of just a diatonic style. Mm-hmm. Which brings up the point, and now's as good a time to make it as any, is that the style you're writing in or for ought to be considered when you're creating chord progressions, right? Mm-hmm. Some styles favor some chords over others, or favor diatonic chords or chromatic chords. Jazz and blues styles favor seventh chords a lot. So there's you should do that. The thing that I'm seeing, we can scratch this if it just if we have to, but the thing that I'm seeing is that if the melody note is always the third, then you are necessarily creating parallel fifths, right? Which is not a bad thing necessarily, but what you really got is one voice doubled in, thirds. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What if, for example, this first D, that is the second note of this melody.
Beat forward, first measure.
Yes. What if this, instead of being the third of that chord, was the fifth of that chord?
Huh.
And so now, what we have done here is create what we call sort of passing motion from 1 to minor 5, and I'll hit that A flat this time. Sort of deceptive cadence motion sounding, right?
Yeah.
And what I did, this is essentially a substitution, right? The chord that we had originally, B flat, works.
Uh-huh.
It's a little, to me, it's a little just parallel-y, right?
Yeah, that transitional chord between those two. Yeah.
Right, but that's a 7 chord, right? B flat. And that 7 chord is a chord of dominant function.
Mm-hmm.
So I just used another chord of dominant function, effectively, the greatest chord of dominant function, the 5.
I like that.
Yeah. So, and we got this in the bass line, which I'm already liking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, you could think of that two ways. You could think of that as, all right, I'm looking at the 7 chord, what other chord might go there?
Yes.
You know, or you can think of this as, well, my melody note is D. You know, so what are some chords that have a D in it?
Mm-hmm.
B flat has a D in it.
B flat does have a D in it. D diminished, this 2 chord of C minor.
Has a D in it. You know, G minor has a D in it.
G minor, yep.
You know, what else? I mean, C9 has a D in it.
Well, yeah, you get into
right?
7th chords
Like,
and stuff like that.
Right, yeah, you know.
I guess I'm not fooling with 7th chords too much on this one.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to get a sort of basic structure going here, right? I could even start here and have a 5-6-4 chord, a 5 chord in second inversion.
Ah.
Yeah, and then an A flat in second inversion.
I like that a
And
lot.
then it went, right?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, why not, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what I'm doing here, other than recomposing my own piece, is basically with the notes in the melody. I am just thinking, okay, what are my options chord wise that will harmonize this? And what I mean by options are, what are chords with this tone in it that this would be a chord tone?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this means my harmonic rhythm, the rate at which chords change, is going to be dotted half note, quarter note, right?
Yes.
If I wanted to, I could think of that D as a non-chord tone. What if that D was a passing tone?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I see.
and I did not harmonize that.
Right.
I consider that just a dissonant non-chord tone passing tone motion. Ooh, that was fun.
But what was that? Was that a...
That was C diminished. But anyway, you get the idea.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So, decide what are your chord tones and what are not.
Right.
You know, decide, if they are chord tones, then what note from the chord they are. Like, what are your options? What are your chords that have those tones as chord tones, right? That's one way to think about it. The other way to think about it is the way we kind of started thinking about it, which is, you know, well, if I've got this B flat here, this, you know, this B flat, you know, then what is a good substitution?
Right.
You know, for 7.
So you're
And
gonna
in my case, I did minor 5, but.
Yeah, okay, so you're doing C minor to B flat to A flat.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to find what to stick in that B flat slot.
Right.
And we decided minor 5 might be a cool thing to try.
Might be.
Let's hear that again. So
Minor 5?
Yeah.
Just root position.
Sure.
So
C minor to minor 5 to A flat.
Yeah.
In the progression.
Yeah.
Okay. So that middle chord was the minor 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
And I see that the minor 5 being G minor in the key of C minor, G, B flat, D. Well, there's a B flat and a D in there, also shared with the B flat chord. So it actually has 2 common tones.
Oh, yeah.
So I tend to look to those for the first substitution. If I'm going to try and do a substitution or try and add a different chord for the same function,
Right, yeah.
I try and find one with at least 2 chords.
Yeah,
Well,
the more tones in common, the easier on the ears the substitution will be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's undoubtedly other weirder stuff I could have done.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I could have made a B diminished chord out of, you know.
Yes, you could have.
So this would not be a diatonic chord. I'd be using B natural, but.
Well, how did that work out?
Just 1 7 1.
Okay.
B
7 of
7 of 1.
7 of 1. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because B has, you know, the note D is a chord tone,
I see. Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now this is going outside of our diatonic chords.
Yeah, we're getting a little more colorful, a little more chromatic,
Yeah.
which is totally cool, especially
yeah.
when it comes to these classical style compositions, right?
Absolutely. And you can hear that there's a little bit of a different flavor in that chromaticism, right? And then I did go to 1 6, 1 in first inversion. I wonder if I could preserve that A flat that I kind of like. Preserving that A flat's going to be hard.
But to be true to your melody, you'd have to, wouldn't you?
To be true to the melody, I'd have to, yeah. Now, I am the composer of this piece. If I decided I didn't like my melody, well, I'll change that.
You
But,
have that license.
but if you don't necessarily have that license, you know, that is sort of the basic process. You know, so
You have a predetermined note.
yeah. But I'm really kind of going with the minor 5 as a substitution for that 7. I like the sound of it. I think that's kind of the character that I was going for originally. You know, but I think it has kind of a nostalgic, melancholy kind of feel to it. And I like that, and I like preserving the 6, and I like that we now have a little deceptive cadence for our first 3 chords, 1 5 6.
Nice.
Yeah. Rather than just 1 7 6 down the minor scale. Yeah. So that's our first 3 chords. I think I notice, you know, I say I've decided on G minor because I like it. I like, you know, if you like something else, absolutely do something else.
Right.
Yeah. And I like my little inversion thing too.
So still on that A flat, just inverted. Right?
Yeah.
So moving on to measure 3.
So, and then from there, we sort of, originally we had A flat, B flat, so, you know.
That sounds kind of airy.
Well, there's not a lot of harmony there because of the parallel fifths.
Right.
So, let's see.
So where does that melody go to?
Back to D. So I could go back to minor 5, I suppose.
Again, in place of the B flat?
And get in place of the B flat. To me, that sounds a little stuck. You know, when you play that much of it. I mean, it doesn't sound bad, but it sounds a little stuck, right?
Sounds a little redundant.
Yeah. Maybe. What's another note that has D in it as a...
We did talk about that 2 chord.
Yeah, the 2 diminish.
Uh-huh. Does that work okay going back to the A flat there?
I kind of do want something else. Or maybe we could just stick with that B flat.
It ain't bad.
Yeah, maybe just stick with that B flat this time.
Okay.
You know, sometimes our original. So now I have C minor, G minor, A flat. And I'm going to invert this B flat just for reasons. A flat, B flat.
What was that?
That's A flat. So
Okay.
at this point, we're just sticking with A flat.
Okay. So A flat, B flat, A flat.
Yeah. Yeah. And G minor. and then I definitely want F minor here.
So that stands A flat, G minor to F minor.
Yeah. So, we're not changing every single chord. We're just sort of picking out the ones we like.
Yeah, you don't want to change it just to change it.
Right. Yeah, no. Not if you can help it. And then I definitely like E flat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's that 3 chord.
Yeah. E flat. And I'm going to kind of go to A flat major here, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So E flat, A flat, E flat.
Mm-hmm.
And then check this out. I'm now going to go B flat and end in E flat major.
Oh boy. You deceived us all, Matt.
Yeah. The relative major. So I have actually modulated from C minor to E flat major.
That's not what you did in the original one, though, is it?
It actually kind of is.
Is it?
Yeah.
We'll have to go back and re-listen for that.
I think a lot of this is me picking out what I did originally.
That is funny. What would you have done if you had to do it again twice?
What would I have done? Well, yeah.
Sounds like we just did it.
Sounds like that's what we just did. Yeah. But so to recap quickly.
Uh-huh.
C minor, G minor, A flat.
That's measure 2.
Yeah. Yep. A flat, B flat, A flat.
Measure 5 there.
A flat, G minor, F minor.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then E flat. Right?
Uh-huh.
E flat, A flat, E flat, B flat.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
And the inversions I did were all crazy. but they're there to avoid parallel fifths and to write a cool bass line.
Yeah.
Right.
That gets us out of that little parallel fifth slump that we were in earlier.
Yeah. And these are all. So the chord progression I'm settling on here is a combination of diatonic chords. They're all diatonic chords, and they are. There are a few little theory tricks in there, like the passing 6/4 chords.
Yeah.
That's kind of a thing if you analyze a lot of Schubert and stuff.
Uh-huh.
The 4/6/4 chord, or the 6/6/4 chord rather, with the E flat, A flat, E flat.
Yeah, I kind of had a Plagal feel to it.
Yeah,
for a second there.
yeah. So it's little tricks like that in there, but mainly I'm just deciding what chord I like based on what chord is a chord tone in my melody.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we don't have to necessarily stick with borrowed chords. From here, there can be a further process of refinement. I'm still not super sold on A flat, B flat, A flat. I'm wondering what else could be that D there. Maybe
there's that minor 5 again.
There's that minor 5 again, right? As another possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Or 2 diminished, although I think we decided we didn't really like that as much. I don't know. That's kind of pretty cool.
Yeah, it's not without its charm.
Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, just further refinement over that. There are a couple of ways you can think about this. One is my random chaotic way of just, what chord has this note as a tone in it? Mm-hmm. One is more of Jeremy's more organized and systematic way of first creating chords based on parallelisms and then substituting where necessary to spice up or get the right flavor.
Right.
Yeah. And those are by far not the only 2 approaches.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Everybody who does this differently.
Yeah. So before we move on, can we hear the differences between those 2 versions back to back?
Sure.
So if we first play the one that involves those parallel fifths, like the top row chords I have here.
Right. Yeah.
So
that version.
Uh-huh.
Is going to be
1, 7, 4, 6. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then
6, 7, 6,
and then
6,
help me out here.
6 minor 5,
Okay.
G minor, 4. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. And then E flat, right?
Which is 3, 4, 3. Yeah. And then just D diminished to 1.
And then just D diminished.
2 to 1. Yeah. So that's the original. That's kind of what we came up with using my little systematic kind of
Right.
thing.
Yeah. And then we just did some substitutions.
Yeah, let's put a little mustard on it, Matt, and see and hear the second version we came up with.
Okay.
You ready for it?
Yes.
Okay.
1, C minor, 5, 6. Yeah. 6, 7.
Yeah.
6. 6. Minor 5, 4. Yeah. And then
3.
yeah, okay. And then E flat 3. Yeah. 6, 3, and then we've kind of modulated here.
Yeah.
And this is 5, 1, and E flat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just it just substituted functions, basically. You know?
So it looks like we found some good harmonies that go with these notes of the melody.
Yes.
And then we decided what can add most intrigue by using some of these chords that share common tones with the melody.
Right.
Or chords that actually share common tones with what our intuitive thoughts at first glance might be these chords. For example, we see ourselves a 6th chord.
Yes.
We can change that up, change it to something else.
Right. We could change it to something, and typically we're changing it to something with that kind of function in it. But yeah, we can change that. And the way I'm changing it is thinking, well, take my melody note and what other chords other than 6 or whatever will have that as a chord tone. And again, we're still dealing a lot with diatonic chords. If I want to go back and make it less diatonic, then I start thinking, all right, well, what could be a good 7 of something, or what could be a good common diminished chord, or a chromatic passing tone, or
Yes, and also when you add 7th chords, if you want to start adding 7 chords to this, it really opens up a whole new realm of options, because oftentimes you'll have a 7th chord that shares 2 common tones, where the other root chord of that chord might not have.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah. So that will open up all kinds of secondary dominants. All kinds of. Even something as simple as raising the 5th in a minor mode. We've been in minor 5 this whole time. Is a wholly different sound to me, right? A wholly different character to that piece of music.
That was with the major 5 just then?
That was just the major 5, just B natural instead of B flat.
Can we hear the 2 back to back?
So minor 5. Versus major 5.
Yeah, okay. I think I like the minor 5 better. That's just me, though.
Well, you've heard it enough now that it's stuck in your head.
Maybe so.
Want to do one more?
Yeah, actually, this is kind of special for Anna.
Okay.
Because Anna was, like she said, was going to these Celtic music sessions.
Right.
And they often play from a very large book of well-known traditional Celtic tunes.
Sure.
So we have right here, we have this Irish tune called the Ballydesmond Polka number 2. There's actually 3 of them.
Okay.
And she was asking, so for example, if she had to learn this to take it to a session and she wanted to have an accompanist join her.
Sure.
What kind of chord chart might she make out for this accompanist?
Uh-huh.
Was that my stomach or your stomach?
I don't know.
So let me show you the melody real quick.
Okay.
And then we'll kind of break it apart a little bit. There's 2 sections. And because it's a polka, it happens pretty fast. But the A section repeats, and then the B section is like A, A, B, B. So here it is in the full version, as close to speed as I can get it. The Ballet Desmond polka number 2, which this Irish polka is in 2/4, and that's cut time. So here we go. A section. 1, 2, 1, 2. B section. So that's the whole thing all together. So the A section, it's like a... And then it just does it again.
Yeah.
B section, the next line down, you will see it starts off on this A note. 1, 2, 1, 2. Or as it's written.
Yeah.
Now I'm playing a bunch of like little embellishments and double notes and like triplets and stuff like that.
Yeah. This is a great little challenge when you think, well, how do I harmonize something to this? Looking at this melody, and right now if I'm just looking at the melody, I don't know what chords to put underneath it.
Sure.
Just hearing what you just played, right? Something I notice about this melody is that is very so.
By the way, this is an A Dorian. I should have said.
Yeah. So this is an A Dorian.
That's why you see a sharp up here in the key signature.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. A Dorian, same key signature as G major. We did an episode on that.
Sharp 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are the first 2 measures.
Yeah, that is kind of just going up the scale, right? Yeah. In a very A Dorian-ish way. I would maybe do so. One thing I would not do is try to change chords every single one of those notes, like we did in the last example.
Oh God!
Right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Let's not do that. Let's sort of pick an overarching harmonic rhythm. So is our harmonic rhythm 1 chord every measure, or 1 chord every 2 measures, or half measure, or what? You know.
In this case, we have a polka.
We have a polka.
So each measure is just 2 beats. So
each measure is just 2 beats. So once a measure is going to be still a pretty fast chord change.
Right.
It is getting into the realm of possibility, whereas 1 every note is kind of not.
No.
But that's still pretty fast. You want to say maybe a harmonic rhythm, a chord change every measure? You want to say maybe chord change every 2 measures?
Maybe so, and then maybe there might be a cadence at the end that changes that.
Right. Harmonic rhythms tend to speed up as you approach a cadence. That's a truth of music. So, and we can rethink that later, but for right now, I'm thinking maybe those first 2 measures, just go to A minor. Yeah, that sounds like a non-chord tone, what we would actually call an appoggiatura, because it is going to sort of anticipate the next 2 measures. Now, what chords to put underneath this? These next 2 measures. So if we're going to just be an A for a first couple of 2, and then what?
So.
Yeah. Then. So what there?
So I'm playing a G, like G, F sharp, G. So the G's are landing on the downbeats. On the strong beats, we got a G note.
So on the strong beats, we got a G, and our longest note, that dotted 8th note, is a G. And the other 2 notes, at least in measure 3 there, are notes that are neighboring G.
Yeah, they're moving.
What we would call changing tones, neighbor note down and then a neighbor note up.
Okay, yeah.
So that signifies to me that G is probably our chord tone. All right, because the G is just the note of most prominence in that measure.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking for a chord that has G as a chord tone.
Right.
Right? And that's, as far as I'm concerned, that is further. And then the second measure, you can interpret that. But depending on whether you decide that E or D is the chord tone.
Mm-hmm. Right.
To me, this is a 5-1 relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that is such a strong pulling relationship
Mm-hmm.
that I want to think D is that chord tone.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking, in these two measures, G is a chord tone and D is a chord tone, and we need a chord that has those two notes in it.
Right.
Yeah. We really only have two options that are immediately coming to mind anyway.
Sure.
One would be minor 5/7.
Minor 5/7, huh?
Yeah.
So E minor 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And the other one would be G. G, B flat. Yeah. G, B, D. Major 7.
Right.
You're the expert on traditional Scottish and Irish music, but for me, I would think that flat 7 might be more in keeping with the Scottish-Irish tradition.
Yes.
Just in terms of the chord progression that tends to be most prevalent in that kind of music.
Absolutely.
Now, knowing that requires knowing a little bit about the style of music you're arranging for here, but
Sure.
yeah. But why don't we try that for those just A? So you can just play the melody loosely, and I'll try to.
First 4 measures?
First 4 measures.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Yeah. A minor, G major. The 5th and 6th measures are, in fact, repetitions of the 1st and 2nd measures, right?
Basically.
Basically, right? Yeah. Which doesn't mean you have to do the same chord progression. You can do a different one. For the purposes of simplicity, we'll just do A minor again there.
Sure.
Right? Which leads us to the last 2 measures of the A phrase.
Uh-huh.
In which I am seeing...
measure 7.
Yeah, measure 7 and 8. In which I am seeing... yeah. Right, yeah. So... I mean, it is almost kind of spelling out E minor. I know we're not doing that, but...
No, we can. We can try it. So you're saying that if you're basing it on the notes you see before you,
yeah,
you're thinking it's more E minor-ish.
I mean... Which
is a minor 5.
Yeah.
But like I said, we don't hear that a lot, but we're going to try it out to see how it sounds, I think. Don't you think?
Yeah. We could continue to do G major there.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could decide that our chord tone is D. I mean, we definitely have some precedent for that. Well, I mean, it's hit twice.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah.
So the E minor chord itself does not have a D in there unless you want to call it a 7 chord.
Right.
So, which 7 chords do occur in Irish music, but more so in the contemporary styles, people who are doing newer stuff,
yeah. Yeah, but that would sound like...
Yeah.
It wouldn't be bad. Do you want to do it that way?
Yeah, let's do it together. Why not?
Okay.
And this will be the A section.
Yes.
But we're going to experiment with that second to last chord and try it at E minor instead of
E minor, yeah.
Everything else
try
is the same.
Yeah, right.
Okay. 1, 2, 1, 2. Interesting. So that was with the E minor.
That was with the E minor. The other option might be to think of, rather than think of the E as the chord tone and have an E minor chord, think of the D as the chord tone And the E is an upper neighbor to it.
Yes.
Which and now you have just G major again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just basically keeping it the same.
Okay, so we'll try it with a G at the end instead of an E minor and see if that feels better.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So, two different options.
Two different options.
Yeah. There's also, you might notice a little rhythmic catch there right at the end. We're actually kind of anticipating on the last quarter note of measure 7 that we're actually hitting the next chord?
Yes, the way I'm playing it, it actually goes into the next measure, right?
Yeah, okay.
But that's not how it's written here. But that's how I learned it. So
there you go.
So there you go.
So that's what you're gonna do what you learn. I don't care what any piece of paper says.
Otherwise it'd be yeah. Which actually maybe that is right.
Yeah.
Style. It's just a style thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now let's try this before we move on to the B section. I just want to try one other thing.
Okay.
Now, if I played it the way we did the first time around, but maybe the second time around, we substitute the A minor, the third A minor in measure 5 for an F major chord. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Well, actually, let's just do it one time.
So instead of 6, a 4. A different chord of predominant function.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess instead of a 1, a 6 in this case.
Yeah.
Instead of A minor, F major.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So you want to try that out?
Yeah.
And we'll just do it one time through. We don't have to do it twice. But
okay.
We'll just do A, G, and then F instead of A minor.
Okay.
So you ready for that?
Yeah.
So here we go. So substituting the 1 for the 6 in measure 5.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Yeah, it kind of gives it a more of a sense of almost adventurousness or epicness or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just that little substitution there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of changes the flavor a bit.
Absolutely, yeah. I like it.
So, you want to look at this B section here?
Sure.
It's a similar thing, actually. These notes in the measure 1, the strong beat, 1 and 2 and 1.
Yeah, that's clearly A is a chord tone there, right? Mm-hmm. So, we could do all sorts of things. I mean, coming off of the, we could go to 6 again there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yes, it would.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But you know what I like to do? I like to hold out that 6 until a little bit later on. So
you like to save it to
kind of like we did a second ago.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you like to save it and not. All right.
That's just my taste, though. That's my taste.
So then let's go back to the tonic.
I can see where making it a 6 chord on the top of the B section would really add flair and color to the B section and really call it out more.
Right. Yeah. But again, like we said, this is a creative process kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. All right. So let's do it your way. Let's do A minor again to start the B section. And so
1, 2, 1, 2. So that's cool, huh?
That's cool. Yeah. So that on the last half of that B section, we substituted the 6 for the 1.
And what if we get psycho and flip it around to where we actually do F to G to A minor?
Oh, you want to try that?
You want to try that?
Let's try that.
Just try it out.
Just be fun.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah, we're starting in F. Okay.
B section.
Yeah, all right.
1, 2, 1, 2. They're both pretty darn great.
They're pretty cool, yeah. Yeah. Just Yeah, it doesn't really matter what order you're in. The fact that you do one and then the other, it just adds a little bit of emotion right there. I kind of like the F at the beginning of the B section. It kind of feels like you went to a B section.
Yeah, it does.
Right?
It does.
Yeah.
It does. And actually, one thing, if it seems like we're neglecting this on the B section, if we're neglecting measures 7 and 8, well, it's basically a repetition. A lot of these tunes, there'll be repeated measures and redundancies that you can just cross right off your list because you've already learned them.
Right, yeah,
right?
yeah, and you've already decided what a good chord is for that. Don't get too hasty though. You know, you might miss opportunities like substituting a 6th chord, which seems to work so awesomely.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, do you want to just play this thing one more time all the way through to see how people dig it?
Yeah, let's play this one all the way through. So are we doing 6 at the beginning of the B section? We're doing F?
That's your call.
Let's do it. Let's do
You
that.
surprise me.
Okay. Oh, yeah, well, I guess you don't have it. All right.
It's a day of surprises.
It is.
I'll just play the melody.
Okay. Ready?
And then we'll do AABB.
Right.
All the way through. So
Okay.
if you want to, you can change it up on the second B or second A or just do
Or whatever. Yeah. We'll see what happens.
And a little slow. We'll do it up to speed would be like...
Yeah,
but I'm not going to do that. Plus, and other people might want to learn this melody. So
absolutely.
This is
there
like
you go.
what they call a slow session.
Yes.
You ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 1, 2. And then on the last one, I ended it proper. Because it's on the paper.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that was fun. I did F and then A minor the first time through B, and then A minor F the second time through B.
Nice. I have to go back and listen for that. I was too busy struggling through
Yeah, we were
making sure I got this melody.
Yeah. People, musicians just can't appreciate chord improvisations while they're trying to sight read.
Not at all. Not at all. Go back and listen to the recording, and it's like, dude, right on.
Yeah.
You're the man.
Kidding. No kidding. Well, I hope that was helpful.
Yeah.
Watching or listening to us kind of go through the process. It's a creative process. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that dictates that this melody must be harmonized in this way. Mm-hmm. You know. But it's definitely something that you can have a lot of fun with. I personally can get lost. Yeah, I can get lost in all my options and just spend forever, reharmonizing and reharmonizing, melodies until I just get the absolute perfect one. So.
I imagine that's the part of the composition process when people have a picture in their head of a frenetic, messy-haired composer banging their heads against the wall. I imagine this is probably what he or she is dealing with.
Yeah, well, Beethoven's sketchbooks are fairly famous for having something sketched and then big X's through it, and then an arrow drawn, and then the second version, and then an arrow drawn to that, and then the fourth version is the same as the third, except for like 2 beats or something, and it's.
And then a skull and a knife.
And then a big rip in the paper, and yeah.
Char marks.
Right, yeah. Whereas Mozart was more thought of as having just coming up with it off the top of his head, but I'm more likely to suspect he just didn't write it down. He just sat there until he had the final version and wrote the final version there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Which I guess is kind of what I do, since I don't really... Actually, no, I just do it without writing anything down. But
I do exactly what you saw me do. I could do that. I don't know. Or I could do this. Maybe. Or I could do this other thing.
Well, as a recap, let's make sure we talked about our processes one more time.
Absolutely.
So what we initially did was we took a melody, we learned it, we wrote it down, and then we harmonized with a third above it.
Yes.
Parallel motion, moving when it moves, where it moves.
Right, yeah.
Still maintaining that third relationship above it.
Yes.
And then afterwards, we did a similar thing, except we created a harmony that was a third below our melody, and it followed likewise in parallel motion. And then from there, we were able to find some chord ideas.
Right.
Now, we weren't going to put a chord on every single note change.
Not necessarily.
We did this time because it moves kind of slow.
On mine, it moves slow, so we were able to do that.
Yeah, and add more intrigue to it. And then we did some different options. We showed how the first one was just based on the parallel motion chord progressions, the harmonies that I came up with.
Right, yep.
And it sounded very predictable, very diatonic. I mean, still cool, of course.
It's still pretty good.
But then when you went in and started adding your different chords, that solved two problems. It added more color to it and more intrigue to it, and it also helped with some of these parallel fifths.
Yeah, and what I did was just think, well, what other chords might have this chord of the melody as a chord tone? Mm-hmm. Now with the Ballet Desmond polka, the second Ballet Desmond polka, it kind of moves pretty fast. We didn't want a different chord on every note. So we decided on our harmonic rhythm to begin with, and then just sort of pontificated on what chords were implied here, on what notes we thought were chord tones. Mm-hmm. And we had different options in a couple of different places.
Right.
All right. And then once we decided on what was the chord tone, we then have options on what chords have that as a chord tone.
Yeah.
So, the note G can be from a G major chord, which is what we settled on, or an E minor 5 chord, which is which was another option we explored. Mm-hmm. The note A could be from the tonic A minor, or from the 6 F major, and we had a lot of fun with changing up between F major and A minor
because those share two common tones.
Yeah. And so what we're really doing there is just deciding A, what is the chord tone, and B, which chord is that a chord tone of. Mm-hmm. And that's the basic idea.
That's the gist of it, really.
Yeah.
And then what determines what chord, your chords choices might also be determined by the style of music.
Absolutely.
In this case, we were doing an Irish polka.
Which lended us towards some decisions.
It was A Dorian. That's why we ended up sticking with this G major instead of an E major chord.
Yeah, G major 7 sounded
chord.
a little more stylistically appropriate to us. Mm-hmm. So we went with that more often.
No, we could have done, in this very first measure, we could have done A minor F, and then second measure A minor F if we wanted to.
Sure, that would have been a faster harmonic rhythm.
But really in this Celtic music genre, there's a lot of more droning activity going on, so you kind of, there's been times where you could just hold one chord while someone's doing this. Mm-hmm. Let's just be ridiculous, can we, for a second here?
Yeah.
Why don't you just play an A minor?
Just an A minor the whole way?
While I play this just to see how it sounds. It might not work out.
All right, ready?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, you got to go to the G.
Yeah,
that's a function change.
That is true. So
yeah.
So even though I could stick around for a few measures on that A minor, when it was time to go to the G, it was certainly
definitely time to go to the G.
To do something, change. So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
What else can we say about that? Do you think we answered your question?
I certainly hope so. If Ann or anyone else, if you have any questions, definitely write into us, and we will do our dead level best to explain further. Mm-hmm. When you get into things like harmonizing melody, I wish there was a great step 1, step 2, step 3 as to how to do this. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it's a creative process.
Yeah.
So, it's basically analyzing a melody for the chords that are implied.
Right. Which is pretty cool too.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man. Well, I guess that wraps it up for this episode.
I guess it does.
As we come into the new year, we hope everyone had a good 2019 and
Happy New Year.
And an even better 2020.
Indeed.
It is a new decade.
Indeed.
You will go into it knowing how to harmonize a melody.
Let's hope so.
We have Anna Eastman to thank for that.
Indeed.
We hope you've enjoyed your Patreon episode, your Patreon public episode, Anna. And of course, we do want to thank Jamie Bagshaw and Ben Yardbuller and all of our Patreon patrons, those who support us on PayPal, and all of our listeners.
And we will see you in 2020.
Thanks again for listening. Now go forth. And experiment with some new harmonies and chord changes. And if you have some of your own ideas you'd like to share on harmonization, send them in to info@musicstudent101.com.